listeners.
Perhaps we can begin getting your view on this court ruling and its significance.
The reality is that the judge gave out what is already there in the Immigration Act. So he reaffirmed a very clear principle that only authorized immigration officers may request identity documents, and that no private individuals or groups may intimidate or threaten or deny people healthcare, education, or any other lawful service. So the real practical work now begins, such that the departments of health, home affairs, police must now issue binding operational directives to all provinces and institutions, so that every official understands and applies this ruling correctly. And clinics and hospitals should be safe spaces that are governed by clinical judgment, not politics. At the same time, there must be public accountability for anyone who continues with unlawful document checks or harassment. Enforcement must also include the public education, so that communities are helped to understand that these judgments protect everyone by restoring the rule of law and ending vigilante enforcement.
You've mentioned the word enforcement, and I guess that's going to be the biggest challenge, isn't it? That the law is clear, what must be done and what's not allowed is clear, but making sure that the authorities enforce this ruling and enforce the current laws is probably your main concern now.
Truly, one of the court challenges was that authorities seemed to be passive about this. So you would find some of these groups moving around with law enforcement personnel. So it gave an impression that this was now an official thing by the state or officials. So now, while the ruling did not favor the challenge for those authorities that would have been seen not taking action, we now need to see them taking a more active role, not that is court enforced. It's going to be quite a difficult thing because the sentiment has really become sort of systematic on migrants and how they are treated. And it's now become easy for even officials to treat migrants in a fashion that is not lawful.
So you've called for an urgent migrant indaba, and I guess a big question might be, who needs to be at this indaba, and what exactly should the gathering achieve?
So we aim to gather all stakeholders under one roof. That's national, provincial departments, municipalities, the South African Rights Commission, faith-based organizations, labor, business, migrant representatives, but most importantly also groups such as Dudula, March in March, and other groups that feel aggrieved by the situation of a migrant influx in South Africa. The Migrant Indaba is not meant to be a symbolic event. It's actually supposed to be a practical extension of the cost directive that government implements its national action plan to combat racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, especially, which is more our interest, and other related intolerances. So the courts did note that this government needs to dust off its national action plan on these matters to combat these issues. So the goal is to turn policy into practice, and the Indaba will address three critical objectives. So how migrants themselves can help relieve pressure on public resources through lawful participation and partnerships, perhaps how to coordinate enforcement so that rights and enforcement responsibilities are respected equally. Also, how to build genuine community understanding so that there's a replacing of fear and misinformation with a structured engagement. So it's about making the national action plan by the government real and ensuring that coexistence, legality, and social stability reinforce each other.
All right. Again, I suppose going back to what we've just talked about, regulations and policies can be written and they can be quite clear. How does one shift the emotion, though, the feeling that people might have towards foreign nationals, especially given the sentiment that's already been pushed there, either through propaganda or just a natural feeling of being invaded, in inverted commas, by foreign nationals?
One of the most important things is not to ignore the sentiment by South Africans and to accept that there is quite a serious migrant influx in South Africa. And I appreciate that they may feel that their spaces are now invaded, so to speak, as they would put it. The question of illegal immigration, it just needs to be addressed much at a higher level than just anger on the ground, because policy and national policy of South Africa towards other countries as well would affect. So there needs to be this serious talk, and South Africans need to see that also migrants are interested in resolving this problem. That's how the sentiment can be killed. But also, it's also to correct most actions that are led by misinformation, where people come and mention things that don't really apply in practical application on the ground. For example, issues of migrants taking over the country through elections and such misinformation, or also explaining that there is various categories to migrants. You have your refugees, your asylum seekers, you have your permit holders, you have your special dispensation permit holders, you have your visitors for medical reasons, for short visits, you have your spousal visas, you have all these categories. So the society needs to be made to understand. Also, to really revisit the history of how some of these migrants have come to be here, and understanding that throughout the years, what has occurred that has made them stay or get into different categories of migration and how they are staying in their communities. So the South Africans need to be taken into confidence to understand exactly what is happening, and also to enforce legal migration in the country, with the migrant community accepting that this is a problem, and then there needs to be something that is got to be done, and everyone has to stay lawful.
Bongani, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us on trying to find a solution for this pressing problem. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Ndoro. Thank you very much to the listeners.
That's Bongani Mkwananzi, Information and Publicity Secretary of the Africa Diaspora Forum. Do you know, Asanda, I am old. Yeah, I put my hand up for that. But I still feel uncomfortable when people call me Mr. Ndoro. Sounds like they're talking to my dad.
When they say the full name, Mr. Peter Ndoro.
Anyway, so.
From Africa's broadcast capital